Hello, everybody. My name is Graham Elwood, and you are watching the Shazam Political Vigilante. You see it put in the corner. It's like the bat signal. That's why it's up there. Commissioner Gordon puts a PV in the sky. I come running. This is the People's Channel. This is the People's Channel. This is the best, smartest audience in the interwebs. So we've been following a lot of labor movements, most notably the labor movement that I personally am in right now. I'm a member of SAG-AFTRA. SAG-AFTRA, which is the actors union, and the WGA, the writers union, are on strike. The WGA has been on strike since May. The actors union has been on strike for about 2 weeks now, since the middle of July. So about 2 weeks. And we've talked about the Amazon strike, and we've talked a little bit about the UPS strike, but I haven't gone into it that much just because I've been covering the SAG strike. I've been live streaming usually about twice a week from the picket line, and I've talked to people on the picket line. I will do that again this week, usually about 11 a.m. Pacific time. Which is 2 o'clock Eastern time, usually twice a week, usually like Tuesday and either Thursday or Friday. But this just came across. I saw this in the World Socialist website, WSWS.org, about what just happened with the Teamsters and the UPS. And something just happened is this trucking company just declared bankruptcy. And I was just like, I wasn't sure what was going on, but this article, we're going to go through it, very much shows like, oh, this is a move to try to undermine the Teamsters and just hurt workers in general. It's another move by management. So this is Yellow Corp bankruptcy, a brutal attack on the working class. So this is the World Socialist website. This came out a little less than 24 hours ago. Yellow Corp, the 5th largest trucking firm in the United States, has shut down its operation and laid off 30,000 drivers. But the media is telling you the recession's over, job numbers are up. It's all looking good. Yard workers and office staff across the U.S. The firm is expected to file for bankruptcy protection in federal court this week. Right? So it's a move. And I'm curious. I wonder, did the CEOs and the board of directors of this trucking corp, did they cut their salaries to keep these jobs? Nope, they never do. I couldn't look myself in the mirror as a man. As a man. If I ran a corporation, and let's say we had some tough times and, we weren't making as much money as we were, I would cut my salary before I laid people off. And if I had to cut my salary so much that I was working for free, then I might have to fold up the business or something like that. Or I don't know, but I wouldn't just sit there making 10, 15, $20 million a year going, sorry, I'm laying off 30,000 people. Because 30,000 layoffs, that doesn't just affect 30,000 people. I don't know what percentage of those 30,000 people, but I'm sure have families, have kids, whatever. Maybe they're supporting their parents. Maybe they're just, whatever. Like their spouse isn't working because maybe their spouse is staying home taking care of the kids, and they like any number, not just to mention, even if it's just a single person living alone. It's a truck driving company, so it's mostly men, let's assume. That's a statistic. Probability. It's a single guy living alone, loses his job. Well, then that also affects the local economy. Now that guy doesn't have money. He's got to cut back on, he's not going out to eat. He's not, whatever. That's what happens when somebody gets laid off. The Yellow bankruptcy and mass layoffs are intended as a ruthless act of intimidation against all workers, confronting an increasingly militant movement of the working class. The Biden administration has decided to allow the company. No, the Biden administration, I thought the Democrats were such pro-labor. It's so funny, this two-party system, how corrupt it is. The Republicans hate unions, and they've lied to their constituents to say that unions are bad, but they don't give a shit about working. The Republicans do not care about the working class at all. Neither do the Democrats. The Democrats just say they care, and then they'll pass like this little millimeters worth of legislation to show that they're like a millimeter different than the Republicans, but always behind closed doors. Look, remember when Biden earlier this year killed the rail strike and gave the rail workers a horrible deal? He just came in and said, nope, he killed it. A rail strike. And then we had that derailment in Ohio. One of the things the rail strike was addressing was like, there's not enough money being spent on rail infrastructure and switchers and all this. I don't know how the rail industry works, but I saw a rail union worker saying, this is what we were talking about when we were wanting to strike, because we needed these things addressed. And the Biden administration said, nah. I don't know. Then we had a derailment. Both parties hate workers and hate unions. The Biden administration has decided to allow the company to go into bankruptcy as a warning, aimed particularly at the 340,000 UPS workers who will begin voting on a sellout agreement backed by the Teamsters union apparatus this week. So that's why I like going to WSWS.org. Is I was reading this article in CNN or whatever, and they're like, oh, I had to lay them off because budget cuts. The socialist website goes, no, this is a threat. This is saying we just cut, because the UPS is a truck driver. It's the Teamsters, right? While Teamsters General President Sean O'Brien has hailed the UPS agreement as historic, so apparently they've come to an agreement. I don't know the details of it. I can't really comment on and say if it's good or bad, but this article, it has provoked a firestorm of rank and file opposition for maintaining the poverty wages of part-time workers, which again, we've heard this argument across all industries. Part-time workers, right, are getting crappy wages while people are profiting. That's the actors and writers. I'm a part-time actor, right? I'm not working on a full-time show 40 hours a week, but then I get these residual checks for 4 and 5 cents from shows I've done on Comedy Central. There's a game show I hosted called Cram on the Game Show Network that has been in reruns for the last 2 years. I have received $0 in residuals. Someone is making money off of this. I should be getting fair residual wages, not $0. I shouldn't be getting a 5-cent residual check. I should get a $500 check. Can I live off of $500? Can I pay my monthly bills? No, but $500 is like, oh, okay. I could pay, I could pay my health insurance. I could buy groceries with that. I could pay my cell phone bill. I could pay my Wi-Fi. I could pay, okay. I could pay some bills with that. I can't pay anything with 5 cents. So again, I'm just saying all of these labor issues, it's the same across all of these. I mean, we've talked about gig workers, at Uber and Lyft. Oh, we want to call them part-time. They don't want to pay them real money. So the rank and file opposition for maintaining the poverty wages of part-time workers, who make up 2/3 of the workforce for UPS, and including a de facto freeze in wheel wages for package delivery drivers, plus reduced pensions payments in Western states. More than 22,000 yellow workers were prepared to strike on July 24th. So they were going to go on strike, and they just laid them off after the company reneged on its pension payments earlier this month. So the federal government coming in and allowing them to go into bankruptcy court allows the company to restructure its debt or whatever, but they can lay people off during that, saying, oh, we have no choice. So this is how the federal government kind of helps, just allows this to happen. And the bankruptcy court, I've never heard of a bankruptcy court going, the CEOs have to cut their salaries to 50 grand a year and give that money back to their employees. I've never seen that in bankruptcy court, because the big corporations own the courts. The Teamsters bureaucracy suddenly called off the strike, however, claiming it had reached a deal with the Yellow to pay its $50 million pension obligation within 2 weeks. It is now clear that the Teamsters leadership had no intention of calling a strike at Yellow, and it announced justifying the decision was based on lies. They're going to call a strike, didn't call the strike, and then everyone gets laid off. Wow, what a convenient series of events. Again, unions, I'm pro-union, but unions are only as good as their leadership. And if you have ineffective or corrupt leadership at the head of any union, Teamsters, SAG, Writers Guild, whatever, you're going to have problems. The union bureaucracy was well aware that the company was headed towards bankruptcy, but was determined to prevent a strike lest it embolden UPS workers and other sections of the working class. making clear the union bureaucracy would not conduct even the pretense of a fight against mass layoffs. Teamsters President O'Brien said over the weekend, today's news is unfortunate, but not surprising. Oh, so they knew. In fact, the company has used the breathing room granted to it by the Teamsters to move freight off its docks and positions its trucks and other equipment for auction. So they're going to sell stuff for auction while laying people off. The bankruptcy courts will be used to allow Yellow's owners to slash their liabilities to employees. Upcoming salary and pension. That's what this is about. They don't want to pay the pensions. Smash up the company and buy up the remaining assets at rock bottom prices. Tens of thousands of workers at Yellow are being abruptly thrown into joblessness with devastating consequences. At the company's headquarters in Overland Park, Kansas, with more than 4,000 office workers are being laid off, KCTV reported that employees with 9 years or less will get 2 weeks' pay as a severance package. It's very tough, an office worker said. There's a lot of us here and we're flooding the job market. 4,000 people just got released into the job market in Overland, Kansas. Teamsters officials are still engaged in closed-door discussions. God. Overriding concern of Teamsters President O'Brien and the rest of the bureaucracy is to prevent any strike that would strengthen the position of 340,000 Teamster members at UPS. Just 2 days after announcing the Yellow agreement, O'Brien announced he had reached a deal with UPS, thus averting a strike to begin at 11:59 Monday night. That their strike was set to go on July 31st. The UPS deal was no doubt brokered by the Biden administration. Biden has relied on the trade union bureaucracy to keep wage increases below the rate of inflation and prevent strikes that would disrupt the prosecution of the U.S. proxy war against Russia and plans for an even bigger war against China. This is what I love World Socialist website, is because they connect the dots. Like that's what I say on the show, follow the money, connect the dots. Because if the whole country's on strike because of unfair wages, then everyone's going to be screaming, why are we sending money to Ukraine? Why are we ramping up a war with China that should be a trade partner? Oh, we don't have money for student debt forgiveness. We don't have money for Medicare for all. We don't have money to rebuild our infrastructure, but we have money for war. And there we don't have money for wages. We don't have money for fair union benefits. And, oh, we can't do this and that. This is the Biden administration. This is what the Democrats do. The Republicans just overtly say, the hell with the unions. We hate them. The Biden and Democrats go, oh, we love the unions. And then behind closed doors, stab you in the back. That's the Democratic Party. That's the difference between these two parties. They both hate labor. They both hate the unions. One says it to your face, the other stabs you in the back while shaking your hand. While the White House and Congress are prepared to use anti-strike laws against workers in key industries, as they did against the rail workers last year, they prefer to use the services of the union bureaucracy to avoid a direct political clash with ever more militant sections of the working class. You make people hungry, you make people without jobs, you make the streets filled with people that are jobless and can't pay their bills, you have mass evictions and foreclosures, you're going to have riots on your hand. Tight labor market, which is what the Wall Street Journal complained, allows workers to bargain for high pay, making it harder to get inflation down. It also coincides with threats by auto executives, including Stellantis CEO Carlos Tavares, that workers must accept deep wage and benefit concessions. Give me one CEO that's cut his salary or her salary. Give me one. You can't. Give me one. Find me one. With contracts expiring for 150,000 auto workers in the U.S. and another 20,000 in Canada in mid-September. Hundreds of thousands of people in all these industries. There's 160,000 actors on strike. There's like 50,000 writers on strike. They want to 340,000 UPS strike workers. That'll shut this country down. The U.S. relies on the total production of costs that we can achieve in the U.S. with our suppliers within our own plants. The liquidation of Yellow is being driven by the most parasitic Wall Street interests. In 2019, private equity firm, of course, Apollo Global Management essentially took over control of the debt-ridden company by extending Yellow a $600 million line of credit. That's like a mob guy. That's how the mob does it. Hey, I'll loan you money and give you a couple points on the VIG, and then they want your business to go belly up so the mob takes it over. That's how the mob, jeez. It then leveraged its connection with Trump administration to obtain a $700 million pandemic aid loan from the United States Treasury. See, both parties are corrupt. On the dubious grounds that the company was essential for national security. With nearly $600 billion in management assets, Apollo has a long history of loading up struggling companies with even more debt and collaborating with the unions to attack workers' jobs, wages, and pensions before selling or liquidating the asset-stripped company. So this is they've done this before. In one of the most notorious cases, Apollo joined other private equity firms in squeezing massive concessions from the Warrior Met coal miners in Alabama, who waged a heroic 2-year strike until it was betrayed by the United Mine Workers. Over the last 4 decades, U.S. bankruptcy courts have been used to strip workers of their livelihoods and ensure the continued enrichment of the financial oligarchy. The list of employers that have filed for bankruptcy includes Continental, Eastern, United, American, and other airlines, countless steel, auto parts, and coal companies, major auto firms such as GM, Chrysler, Delphi, and Visteon, and the city of Detroit, with the pensions and retiree health benefits of city workers, was gutted, and public assets were sold off in the largest municipal bankruptcy in U.S. history a decade ago. This is Republican and Democrat. So if you think, oh, I'm a this party, the other party is the bad problem, they're both awful. If you're a working person in America, the duopoly is killing us. It's killing you. Whatever business you're in, it's killing you, unless you work for Wall Street. You're a hedge fund manager. The attack on yellow workers can and must be stopped. But to do so, workers must take the struggle out of the hands of the Teamsters bureaucracy by organizing rank and file committees that will transfer decision-making power to the drivers and yard workers. If you're in a union and your leadership is not doing its job, get them out of there. These committees must establish direct lines of communication with workers and other trucking companies and at UPS to prepare joint strike action to demand secure and good-paying jobs for workers. These committees should advance demands to open yellow financials books to public scrutiny, including full disclosure of all the company's assets and all of its payments to creditors, including the U.S. Department of Treasury. Securing the jobs, wages, and pensions of all workers must take priority, and all resources wasted on the vast salaries and fees of corporate executives, Wall Street investors, and union bureaucrats must be exposed and fully recovered. Private capitalist ownership of the trucking industry has proven to be a disaster for consumers and workers. If you're in these, you're a UPS driver, you're in this union, your leadership has betrayed you, start your own committees like they just suggested. That's what you need to do. I'll be walking the picket line 11 a.m. Pacific on Tuesday, August 1st for SAG-AFTRA and probably again on Friday. Follow the money, connect the dots, get the truth. And shave your knuckles for justice, because that's how we make Gotham great again. Thanks for following our show and supporting what we're doing. Go to GrahamElwood.com. Tour dates. Follow all my podcasts. I have a P.O. box you can support. A lot of you like to stay off the grid. That's cool. That's how we make Gotham great again, guys. Shave your knuckles for justice. Boom.